but I don't think of that as me anymore.
You don't? Not at all?
Not really, no. I used to be a guy who was experiencing the world, and now I feel like the world and the universe experiencing a guy.
Jim Carrey stole the show for decades. From the boring comedian who just needed money to survive, he became a highly recommended comedian who made millions of dollars yearly, becoming one of the best at what he does, the life of every show he shows up in, and the favorite of comedy lovers. But a couple of things happened that questioned his personality behind the scenes. Just like other celebrities who rewrote history, he also had his downtimes, which had a way of coming into his career. So, the question remains, what really happened? Grab a drink as we explore the life of Jim Carrey and what he revealed that we all suspected. His early life struggles. Jim was born in the bustling city of Ontario in Canada to Kathleen, a homemaker, and Percy, a musician and accountant. His parents raised him in a Catholic household, and he grew up with 3 older siblings, John, Patricia, and Rita. His mother's heritage is traced back to Scottish and Irish roots, while his father has French-Canadian ancestry. The family name originally was Carrey. From a young age, Jim had a flair for the dramatic. At just 8, he figured out the fact that he could make hilarious faces in front of a mirror and realized he had a knack for impressions. By the time he was 10, he boldly sent a letter to the legendary Carol Burnett, stating that his impression skills deserved a spot on The Carol Burnett Show. He was excited to receive a standard reply to his enthusiastic suggestion. He is also a fan of the incredible sketch group named Monty Python, and his admiration was obvious when, in 2014, he appeared on Monty Python's Best Bits, Mostly. He usually recalled a particular sketch where Michael Palin's character, Ernest Scribbler, really laughed himself to stupor, leaving a lasting impression on him. As stated by the media, Michael's performance has a mysterious resemblance to Carrey's unique style. Jim spent a lot of his early years in Scarborough, Ontario, a part of metropolitan Toronto, where he attended Blessed Trinity Catholic Elementary School in North York. The family later relocated to Burlington, Ontario, and spent 8 years there, after which Jim went to Aldershot High School. However, tough times started when the family found themselves homeless, staying together and managing themselves in a Volkswagen van. During this challenging period, Jim and his brother, who were teenagers, camped out in a tent at Charles Daly Park by the shores of Lake Ontario. Despite their financial struggles, things started turning around when his father got a job in the accounting department at Titan Wheels Tire Factory in Scarborough. To help make ends meet, Jim and his brother worked as janitors and security guards at the factory in exchange for living in a house across the street. They pulled 8-hour shifts from 6 p.m. to the next morning. After returning to Scarborough, Jim started attending Agincourt Collegiate Institute, but dropped out on his 16th birthday to pursue comedy in downtown Toronto, while still clocking shifts at the factory. Talking about his life in an interview in 2007 with the Hamilton Spectator, he said that if his career in show business hadn't taken off, he might have been working at the Dofasco Steel Mill in Hamilton, Ontario. He often stared at the steel mills across Burlington Bay and imagined they were where the best job opportunities are. Research has it that Jim grew up haunted by the fear that his parents, who were always heavily intoxicated by illicit substances, might not survive. He remembered a time when he would lock himself in the bathroom, crying, devastated, and convinced they were on the brink of death. They banged on the door, urging me to come out. I don't know if I ever truly got over that fear. It just lingered, he shared with The Hollywood Reporter. This fear intensified when his mother openly discussed her health concerns. He said, "I remember being 7 and hearing her at the dinner table say things like, 'My brain is deteriorating at an incredible rate. or "My angina's acting up. I could go at any time." Those moments shook me to the core. These difficult childhood experiences led Jim to write a children's book in 2013 titled How Roland Rolls, which addresses significant issues that resonate with young readers. He noted, "I've always wanted to explore the idea that children have deep feelings and serious questions that often get overlooked. They wonder about life, death, and what would happen if something happened to Mom or to themselves." Over time, Jim learned to understand his mother's sincere remarks, realizing the fact that they came out of her need for attention and love. Unfortunately, this honesty came at the expense of instilling deep fears in him. Jim also faced periods of loneliness during his childhood, a topic he opened up about in an issue that happened in December 1984. When asked if his upbringing was special, he admitted, "Well, I spent most of my time in my room staring at a mirror. I never realized I was supposed to socialize." He also remembered spending hours making faces at himself, looking back on those moments fondly as simply having a good time. In a conversation with James Lipton in an interview reported by the Daily Mail, he talked more about his solitary life, saying that he was reluctant to socialize, and it may have been a choice he made. After dropping out of school, he described a shift from being a straight A student to not wanting to know anyone's name or make new friends. This self-imposed isolation helped to shape his early experiences and influenced both his personality and his later career. Like other people who rose to fame, Jim did not have it easy. He had his struggles right from being a child, and it shaped his life. Let's dive into his interesting career and how he made it from Ontario to the world. His career from boring roles to stardom. Jim's first significant success in comedy came just after his family faced homelessness, landing him a gig at Yuck Yuck's Comedy Club in Toronto. In a 2017 interview with People magazine, Jim reflected on that initial experience, saying, "I stood up there and did this horrible, corny act. It was not a surprise that the crowd practically booed him off the stage. Yet, that hockey start didn't stop him. He persisted with his routines, and by 1979, he was making a living from his comedy. Not too long, he was performing as the opening act for incredible comedians like Rodney Dangerfield, and he gained recognition for his high-energy performances and impressive array of impressions. At the age of 19, he took the bold leap from Canada to Hollywood, committed to carve out a career in television and film. Later on, he was taking roles in 1980s comedies like Finders Keepers and Once Bitten. In the early 90s, he became a very familiar face on the hit sketch comedy show titled In Living Color, which served as a launch not only for him and his career, but also for fellow stars like the Wayans brothers, Jennifer Lopez, and James Fox. Riding the wave of his television success, Carrey set his sights firmly on films. He quickly scored big with Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, followed by hits like Dumb and Dumber and The Mask. His dynamic performance in The Mask got him his first of many Golden Globe nominations. Interestingly, while Jim won 2 Golden Globe Awards during his career, neither was for comedy. He took home the honors for his dramatic performances in The Truman Show and Man on the Moon. In 1996, he had made a remarkable leap in his earnings, reportedly landing $20 million for his role in The Cable Guy, which was the largest upfront payment ever for a comedic actor at that time. He had truly come a long way from the challenges of his early life. In the year 2000, he took on the legendary role of the Grinch in Ron Howard's live-action adaptation of How the Grinch Stole Christmas, based on the beloved classic by Dr. Seuss. Later, in 2009, Jim lent his voice to the notorious Ebenezer Scrooge in an animated rendition of Charles Dickens's A Christmas Carol. He had an incredible career, but his personal life was not so good. And that's not new news since it happens to his colleagues a lot. But his own was so different. Let's explore the unique story quickly. His tragic personal life. The hilarious actor has made quite a show both on stage and on the red carpet alongside several stunning women. But one of his most notable relationships was with actress and comedian Jenny McCarthy. After 5 years together, they announced their breakup, and Jenny told Oprah Winfrey in September 2010, "Those moments where you saw us together, was it love? You bet it was." The problem is, there wasn't a photographer around during the tough times. After their separation, Jim turned to art as his means of therapy. In the documentary titled Jim Carrey, I Needed Color, he revealed that sculpting and painting with clay helped him heal a broken heart. At the same time, he didn't specifically mention Jenny. The timeline of their breakup aligned with his artistic pursuits. I became so obsessed with painting that my home was overflowing with artworks. Paintings everywhere. They turned into part of the furniture. Even my dining space was covered in them, he said, speaking to how art truly transformed his living space. Jim's love life has been filled with a lot of leading ladies. He got married to a well-known actress named Melissa Weimer in 1987, and they welcomed a daughter, Jane, before their marriage ended. In 1996, he married his co-star named Lauren Holly, but their marriage was short-lived, with Lauren filing for divorce just after a year. This was followed by a series of tumultuous relationships, including a broken engagement with Renee Zellweger, his co-star from Me, Myself and Irene. When news broke about the downturn in his relationship with Jenny, those people close to Jim shared their thoughts on his dating style, often in unflattering terms. One source referred to him as a hard guy to date, explaining to people that Jim can run hot and cold. He desperately needs companionship, but just as urgently needs solitude. Yet, beneath it all, he can be incredibly loving and compassionate. Also, his relationship with a makeup artist named Catriona White got intense attention from the media, especially due to its tragic conclusion. The two met on a film set in 2012, but Catriona's life came to a heartbreaking end in September 2015, when her life came to a tragic end by overdosing on prescription medications. Catriona was a pallbearer at her funeral, which showed the depth of their connection. In the wake of her tragic passing, her estranged husband, Mark Burton, and her mother, Bridget Sweetman, filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Jim, stating that he had knowingly infected White with 3 STDs and had provided her with the painkillers she used in her overdose. Jim responded with a countersuit, asserting that she had attempted to extort him in 2013 by threatening to expose her STD allegations. He argued that the lawsuit from her family was merely an attempt to exploit his fame and fortune. The legal proceedings became contentious, but ultimately, the case was dismissed in January 2018, as confirmed by a statement from a representative of Jim. After this dismissal, they didn't provide additional comments, though Jim's lawyer mentioned that the actor was eager to move forward with his life. Jim and Catriona's relationship had a lot of trouble right from the beginning. When they started dating, Catriona was living in the country illegally and didn't have a steady income. Tragically, that fall, her father passed away from brain cancer, and she couldn't travel to Ireland for the funeral due to the status of her immigration. According to the media, after her father's death, she started pressuring Jim to marry her. The actor contemplated this seriously and even had an attorney draft an agreement, but ultimately decided against it, feeling that going through with the marriage would be fraudulent. He had his reservations, but he was willing to continue their relationship and even offered to help her find an immigration attorney, to assist with her quest for legal residency. It was evident that he wasn't willing to marry, but Catriona continued to pressure him on the matter, sometimes playfully texting him that Catriona Ann Carey had a nice ring to it. When he asked her to back off, she grew bitter, interpreting his decision as rejection. Throughout their relationship, Jim financially supported her as she pursued a photography career, but the mounting pressure around marriage weighed heavily on them. Then, in January 2013, she finally decided to end things, feeling that she needed to focus on developing her own identity and getting her life in order. After a while, she attempted to take her life, but Jim was skeptical about the authenticity of that claim. According to the media, while there's evidence to suggest her supposed self-injury attempt was fabricated, she did mention it to her therapist, Cynthia Cohen, and some friends. If they believed her, they certainly didn't take action to help. His marriages and relationships were one of his downtimes in his life. But there is more to explore. Let's quickly look into what Jim revealed about himself that shocked the world. His depressing and down times. When Jim was told to go on stage and deliver an elevator pitch for his new film titled Jim and Andy, The Great Beyond, featuring a very special, contractually obligated mention of Tony Clifton, he launched into an amusing anecdote about a quirky elevator he encountered in Toronto. Jim shared this with the media during the Toronto International Film Festival. The elevator at the Windsor Arms has a faux library inside it. You can't actually remove the books. It's just a fake library facade with a lock on it, and there's a bar in front, so you couldn't open it even if you wanted to. And, of course, there aren't any real books in it. This weird story sets the tone for an enlightening and engaging interview with Jim, along with Jim and Andy director named Chris Smith and producer Danny Gabay. The film itself gives room for a fascinating exploration of his transformation into comedian Andy Kaufman while filming the 1999 movie titled Man on the Moon. As he reflects on the similarities between himself and Andy Kaufman, he says, "It offers a fascinating perspective on what happens when you lose yourself in a character and come to realize that you've been playing a character your whole life. Many people think I'm going through something right now, but honestly, I've been grappling with this for my entire life. When I attempt to revert back to being just Jim Carrey, I end up feeling depressed, so I've stopped trying to do that." He also answers the core question that the film raises: who am I? He stated that this question already had its answers in the movie. The interview comes on the heels of Jim making headlines for a perplexing exchange during New York Fashion Week. In a red carpet appearance captured on video, he orbited around E's Cat Sadler before saying, "There's no meaning to any of this." At the Venice Film Festival, he also addressed the issue of losing himself in the role of Kaufman. Jim Carrey didn't exist at that time, he said, describing the filming process as psychotic at times. Miraculously, he stayed in character throughout production, with the cast and crew referring to him as either Andy or Tony, depending on the kind of persona he was embodying, effectively creating fully realized, separate identities for each character. Furthermore, although Jim's comedic intelligence and interesting personality once made him a beloved figure in Hollywood, his career took a really controversial turn in the 2010s. Things began to take a huge turn in 2015, when he made headlines for his outspoken anti-vaccine views via The Guardian, speaking to a connection between vaccines and the rise in autism. This claim, which was not verified, created intense backlash from both fans and medical professionals alike, significantly tarnishing his reputation. Later on, in 2022, Jim found himself back in the spotlight, this time criticizing the popular Will Smith's Oscars slap, where Will violently slaps Chris Rock over a joke about his wife. As the public reaction unfolded, social media users revealed a controversial moment from Jim's past. The notorious 1997 MTV Movie Awards kiss with a 20-year-old Alicia Silverstone. In the video, a 35-year-old Jim forcefully assaulted Alicia while she visibly tried to push him away. This surprised many fans, and they called him a hypocrite, framing the incident as an instance of sexual assault, despite Carrey's apology to Alicia behind the scenes. Throughout the 2010s, his career gradually slowed, even though he took on roles in high-ranking projects like Sonic the Hedgehog and Dumb and Dumber 2. He also explored writing, releasing a children's book and a memoir. But the surrounding controversies often overshadowed his creative endeavors. In 2022, he sort of hinted at retirement, leaving fans surprised when he announced his return to the big screen for the third part of Sonic the Hedgehog, revealing the fact that he needed the money. His willingness to make a comeback for financial reasons, paired with newfound interest in a Grinch sequel, indicates that the comedic force which was once unstoppable is now going through a very different Hollywood landscape. What do you think about Jim Carrey and what he finally reveals? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. To enjoy more exciting videos, click play on the video on your screen. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you get notified when a new video drops.